Whoa, a UFO gets shot by a missile over Siberia. It crashes, and then military eyewitness reports, two eyewitnesses see these five beings leave the craft, large heads, small bodies, sound familiar, with black eyes. These beings then mold into one entity. There's five of them, and then now there's one. But guess what? This one entity is a sphere. It turns into a sphere that starts changing colors and making weird sounds, and it demolishes 23 Soviet soldiers in Siberia. That's what I'm talking about. This is wild. Buckle up, Buttercup. I've got a bumpy ride for you. What you are looking at is a declassified file from the CIA.gov/vault. Today I was reading through a multitude of eyewitness reports of UFOs, UAPs, flying saucers, spheres. I even read a declassified file about how a Soviet submarine ended up on the shores of Sweden, and an officer basically told the pilot of the submarine, well, you need to blow yourself up with the nukes. Yeah, luckily that didn't happen. So we've got a lot to talk about. Thank you very much for being here with me. So excited to share this with you. This is a fascinating document. And I'm looking for the other 249 pages because there's a 250-page, allegedly, a 250-page report of not only photographs, artist renditions, specifications, and a ton of intel on this incident that happened over Siberia. This is like beyond science fiction. But what's very interesting is I have seen spheres in the sky that are not human. Maybe it's some type of super advanced, cutting edge human technologies, but nothing like you see in the public. Out here in Pagosa Springs, even. And my friend Leah, she partners with Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project. She saw a very similar metallic sphere out here in Pagosa Springs as well. So what's going on? I don't know, but let me read this to you. This is going to blow your freaking minds. We're going to read this declassified document, and please leave your comments in the comments section. I want to hear what you have to say. And I'll go over with you a few other UFO files and some very interesting information about the Oxcart and U2 programs, as well as Project Blue Book. And one of the reasons Project Blue Book was probably established after a multitude of UFO sightings back in the day. Before we get into that, though, I did want to let you know that I've got an awesome webinar coming up with my friend Jay Matta, and he is the founder of Gnostic TV. And if you want to turn your passion into influence, if you want to learn how to make profit off of passion, doing what you love to do, going out and, well, I don't know. I've just helped a gentleman out that does, he's a referee, and he's starting a channel on doing what he loves to do. Like, how many bad calls are there out in sports now that you see something goes on, you're like, wait a second, that seems rigged. Well, how would you like to learn from a ref what he thinks about this? Pretty cool. But anyway, if you want to join the webinar, just send me an email, leakproject@gmail.com. The webinar is free. And also, you could be featured on Gnostic TV as well as Leak Project. So a couple of awesome opportunities for you. Send me an email, leakproject@gmail.com. Also, check us out on Patreon. You can also send me a text. I've got the phone number in the video description box if you want to join this webinar. It's going to be via Zoom, so you just make sure you've got your video on. So, we know who we're talking to. We've done some of these in the past, and 90% of the people that show up have their video cameras on, but sometimes people are in a hurry or they're doing something, so they don't have their video on, and it just makes it a little bit awkward. So join the fun, bring your video, bring the Zoom, and we'll talk about it. But let's get into this. It's going to blow your freaking minds. This is amazing. So the document 00055517761, a Siberian UFO incident. So let's get to it here. Now, this happened back when the Soviet Union was, before Russia, this is the USSR. And then the KGB falls, and a lot of these files and documents and very sensitive information gets captured by the CIA. This is a document that you can actually go to the CIA.gov/vault and read it yourself, download it yourself. And I looked into the news agency that reported on this as well, and it's not a tabloid newspaper. So somebody made a comment about, well, the information was from the tabloids. Well, this isn't a tabloid paper, so I don't know where you came up with that, but nice try. The name of the newspaper that this was initially reported, at least some of the information, is called Ternopil Vecherniy. Probably said that wrong, but it's a local paper in Ukraine that talks about the local region. And so after Gorbachev dissolved in 1991, the KGB Top Secret Intelligence Administration, a lot of material that department found their way abroad, in particular to the CIA. As reported by the authoritative magazine Canadian Weekly World News, U.S. intelligence obtained a 250-page file on the attack by a UFO on a military unit in Siberia. Ooh, that's pretty exciting. Hold on a second. Let me adjust my video settings here. There we go. Just had to lower it a little bit. Okay, so the file contains not only many documentary photographs and drawings, but also testimonials by actual participants in the events. One of the CIA representatives referred to this case as a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze. According to the KGB materials, a quite low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a military unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers for unknown reasons. Somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO. It fell to Earth not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. It is stated in the testimonials by the 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves from the debris, the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. There's that sphere again. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply and then became brilliant white. In a few seconds, the spheres grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. At that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomena turned into stone poles. That reminds me of the story in the Bible when somebody looks back at Sodom and Gomorrah and turns into a column of salt. Reminds me of that. Now, the 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomena turned into stone poles. Only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived. The KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms, having transformed it into a substance whose molecular composition is no different from that of limestone. Turned soldiers into freaking limestone. That's crazy. A CIA representative stated, if the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is an extremely menacing case. The aliens possess such weapons and technology that go beyond all our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if attacked. Wow. Can you imagine? So that makes me think about I don't know a lot about physics, but to imagine a flying saucer, something goes from a flying saucer, it gets shot down, 5 beings step out of the flying saucer, and then they turn into an orb, like a sphere, and it blows up. How does that make any freaking sense? It doesn't. Unless It's like some type of interdimensional type craft, some type of artificial intelligence slash super high-end technology that allows for these entities to travel and then merge back to one. That is so bizarre. So bizarre. So, and then turning the soldiers into petrified limestone, that makes it even more bizarre. Well, I'm going to say that's not nearly as weird as 5 aliens coming out of a flying saucer, turning into an orb, and then exploding. That's crazy. So where's the 250-page document? I want to see the photos. Show us the photos. Show us the drawings. This is pretty wild. Now, a lot of the UFOs that are observed are these spheres. There have been thousands of people publicly that have documented seeing these silver spheres. So what I wonder is, are they one and of the same? And let's talk about this for a minute. So you've got the UFOs like flying saucers that have been reported a huge increase since the 40s and since the nuclear testing started in the US. So we've got flying saucers, we've got spheres, we've got plasmoids, which oftentimes are probably related to weather phenomena. And then we've got the rod-shaped UFOs. And I started thinking about it. And the UFO phenomena really became big, like I said, back when they started doing nuclear testing. Well, what if the flying saucers that are observed, the majority of these flying saucers, are actually not from a far, far away land, but from here? Maybe they're in locations inner Earth, under the oceans, under these, very deep lakes, like the Great Lakes. And at specific times, they come out not only to observe, but maybe to stop specific incidents to take place so that it won't affect them. Now, you've all heard about how UFOs tell people, like that if anybody meets an alien that works for the government, that the aliens tell the people, oh, you need to stop nuclear testing because it affects the whole universe. We're from Zeta Reticuli. Yes, that's it. We're from Zeta Reticuli, and that's why we care about you here on Earth. It affects us all the way out there. Well, first of all, maybe like there's a 1% chance, if even that, like a 0.0001% chance of that. But it would make much more logical sense that these UFOs are much closer to home. Now, it could be some type of interdimensional entity where these things can make physical form. They can show up in this 3D state, but they have to oblige by the specific parameters of this 3D state. And then when they get back into this other dimension, whatever this other dimension is, it would be more like a dreamlike state that allows them, it's not so solidified. There's a lot more abstract, a lot more area of gray, no pun intended, grays. That would make sense to me. The rod-shaped UFOs, the flying saucers and the orbs, I wouldn't be surprised if most of that technology is either from here or was placed here a long, long time ago from maybe us or another civilization that traveled the stars, or maybe both. This document is fascinating. And then I started reading through other documents that are declassified now under the CIA vault. And I probably read through at least 7 or 8 different UFO encounters, UFO experiencers from not only the States, but abroad. Many of these are abroad, over by Sweden and Russia and Europe, which would make sense because the CIA is typically doing stuff overseas, whereas the FBI is more domestic. The CIA is international. Wow. Okay, so if you're just joining us, let me read this to you again. U.S. intelligence obtained a 250-page file on an attack by a UFO on a military unit in Siberia. The file contains not only many documentary photographs and drawings, but also testimonials by actual participants in the events. One of the CIA representatives referred to this case as a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze. According to the KGB material, a quite low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a militant unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers. For unknown reasons, somebody unexpectedly launched a surface-to-air missile and hit the UFO. It fell to Earth, not far away, and 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes emerged from it. It is stated in the testimonies, by the 2 soldiers who remained alive that after freeing themselves from the debris, the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply, and then became brilliant white. In a few seconds, the spheres grew much bigger and exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. At that very instant, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomena turned into stone poles. Only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived. The KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms. I've been reading about organoids in space, having transformed it into a substance whose molecular composition is no different from that of limestone. A CIA representative stated, if the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is an extremely menacing case. The aliens possess such weapons and technology that go beyond all our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if attacked. Now, imagine reverse engineering this technology. Having the technology to change shape, to turn beans into limestone, to travel at immense speeds. The morphing of shapes I find most fascinating. Like, how would you take living creatures, morph them into one sphere, and then explode? And were they like independently in the flying saucer? They're all in their own, like, they've all got their own chair, they've all got their own dock, their own joysticks. Most likely, they're probably either a part of this craft. Like, you've read the theory of the trickster, the jokester, like these things that can change shapes and forms, and they're not necessarily aliens, they're not necessarily UFOs, but they might look like an alien or a UFO. But nobody really knows what they are. They're kind of tricksters. And these entities, these tricksters, have been talked about for thousands of years. Thousands of years. I have a close friend that the guy's brilliant. He has done a lot of work for a lot of aerospace companies and defense contractors. And he has had many experiences that he describes these grays will appear and then disappear like they're showing, like a vibration. They show up next to his bed and they vibrate into existence. And he says, you can absolutely grab these things when they're there. He says they don't like it. They don't like it at all. And I don't know how somebody could deal with that and then go to work for an aerospace company and act like nothing happened. That would be a tough thing to do. Well, he's had to do that for years. And so then there's the theory of maybe there, certain government projects that are basically studying his habits and his thoughts, and they want to see what type of response they'll get. And then obviously there's the theory of the grays being interdimensional. Now, even he, and I can't say his name because he's not ready to disclose this publicly yet. He's talked a little bit about it. One of these days he's going to come out and talk about it. But even he thinks that these things aren't necessarily aliens like we perceive aliens to be from some other planet or star system like Zeta Reticuli. But they do show up and they vibrate into existence. And that reminds me of this sphere and a lot of these encounters that people have where they describe these humming sounds and these vibrational energies that they feel. Give you another example. When I lived in San Antonio, this is back in like 2000 and this would have been right around 2011, 2012, right around there. I am driving home from work and I see what appears to be, at first I'm like, is that a flock of birds? Because it kind of had character, and I mean, it might have been. It had these weird, kind of had characteristics of a flock of birds way out in the distance. And then it started acting really strange, and I started getting all excited, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get this on film. So basically, I get out the phone. I start feeling, you can't really see it because they're so far out there, but I just remember how much it impacted me. And it was either that same night or the next night. I wake up at like 4:00 in the morning. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. And I feel like this energy, like and I hear this hum, like, and I'm like, what the frick is that? So I get up and I'm like, I'm looking all around the house. I'm making sure that like it's not a fan or a heater or something in the house. Nothing's on in the house that's out of the ordinary. I'm looking outside for like somebody mowing the lawn or something weird going on, even though it's only 4:00 in the freaking morning and nothing's going on. But above my head, there's this weird freaking humming vibration sound going on. And that could have been like some kind of freaking UFO or flying saucer. I don't know. It was really weird. Really, really weird. It was not normal. It wasn't the fan. It wasn't a lawnmower. It was nobody outside with a weed eater at 4:00 in the freaking morning. It was something above our house that was vibrating, making that really, really weird hum vibration. And what else is interesting is the fact that just the night before, or 2 nights before that, I saw that, I got so excited about what I saw in the sky. Now, then let's go. Is it prior to that? Prior to that, in San Antonio, in the same, pretty close to the same neighborhood. It was a different house. We were in a different house at the time. See, I've had a lot of out-of-body experiences and astral projection. I used to study it. I used to practice it. I mean, if you pick up a book called 90-Day Guide to Astral Projection, you can actually learn to do it yourself. I mean, it's just step by step. Day 1, day 2, day 3, all the way up to day 90. The exercises, the affirmations, how to get to that point. And so, like, I would spend, as I would go to sleep, I would bounce my consciousness off the wall a lot of times, and I would do all these visualization techniques where I'm like pulling myself out of my body with a rope, or an elevator's pulling my, like, so there's a lot of different exercises, but with the affirmations and the practice and the exercises, there's different ways you can do it. And when you start to have these out-of-body experiences, before you have an out-of-body experience, you will actually feel this vibrational energy. Very, very similar. It's, how do I put it? What would be a good way to describe this? What is something that you've heard before that makes a lot of like humming noise? And it's almost got like this vibrational feel to it where you can feel the vibration going through your whole body. It's like that. Another way to describe it is if you've ever had an out-of-body experience, before you pop out of your body, like before your spirit or your consciousness pops out of your body fully, it almost feels like your bed is shaking. So if you've got a cat or a dog and your cat or your dog is at the foot of the bed and it's like itching itself or whatever, it's kind of like that. And so let's go back to this experience that I had in San Antonio one night. So I'm in my bed. I'm about ready to have this out-of-body experience. I can feel the vibration. I can feel the energy. I'm getting ready to pop out, but something told me, not this time. Don't do it. And that's usually the opposite. Because one of the coolest things if you've ever had an out-of-body experience, that is one of the coolest things that you can do, in my opinion. Now, there's a couple things that are pretty close to that, but having floating out of your body and seeing everything like you see it now, maybe a little bit more shades of gray, is so amazing. First of all, you realize you're more than your physical body. And second of all, it's fun. You're freaking floating around. It's amazing. That's different from astral projection, though. So just so you guys know, the real time zone is what you see when you pop out of your body. Astral projection is like different dimensions. It's more like very lucid dreaming, etc. Sometimes you can even get into dimensions that are just shapes and patterns and colors. I've had experiences before where I've had one in particular that I can think of was like red and yellow geometrical shapes. That's all I remember. So anyway, go back into San Antonio. I'm getting ready to pop out of my body. I'm feeling the energy, but something's telling me not to do it. I could literally feel something trying to pull me out of my body. at that night. And it wasn't me doing it. It was something else. And so my spidey senses came on, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. So I didn't pop out of my body that night. And I wonder if that was one of those, like if that would have been an actual experience with this non-human intelligence, whatever it is. I'm pretty sure it was. So when I read these reports that describe these just crazy science fiction scenarios that are being presented as truth and fact and not fiction, I start to understand the vibrational nature of reality. So if you have technologies to travel the stars or travel dimensions or like create these energy fields that feel like a magnet meets a giant generator or something like that. I don't, like, cause it's, you're going to be pretty, like, it's going to be tough to catch you. It's going to be tough to capture an entity that can travel through these dimensions with these technologies. I would really like to know more about this report, and hopefully with us talking about this, I think Joe Rogan did a show on this back in the day. I didn't see it, but I was doing some research. There was a link that came up that said Joe Rogan had talked about this. So now let's connect all these other dots and my own personal experiences. And I want to read about your experiences and your history and your information and see if we can get closer to unveiling this phenomenon. Now, I do find it fascinating at the bottom where it says the CIA representative stated, if the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is an extremely menacing case. The aliens possess such weapons and technology that go beyond all our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if attacked. Maybe that's why they kind of have free reign to do what they want. Because maybe if we can attack these things, the repercussions are going to be far worse. So like, just let them do their thing. Just let them study and analyze, because most of the time, I really doubt this thing would have blown up had it not been shot by a missile before then and crash landed. And that those bottom lines there that describe this technology, if you put that into many of these cases or reports or studies where military personnel are talking about seeing UAPs and UFOs, bizarre spheres and organoids and stuff that just doesn't make sense with modern physics that we understand anyway, just let them be, just let them do their thing. Now it's starting to make more sense. Events like this happen as a warning for our own military. And then what about all these sightings that have been taking place over the past few years? I read a report just the other day where there has been hundreds of mystery drone incursions over military sites over the past few years. Now, many of these are probably foreign adversaries just studying and spying and experimenting on their latest tech to see what they can capture as far as intel. A lot of these are unexplained. A lot of these are non-human intelligence phenomena reports, at least with the data that we have. If these things are human or human technology, far advanced, way beyond even what most people with top secret clearances know about. And that's the thing about, even if you've got a top security clearance, in the field of intelligence, you have compartmentalization. So you may have access to a bunch of top secret information, but then when you get into compartmentalized information, that's for your eyes only. And that's how they keep this stuff secret. Like, how do you think they kept the Manhattan Project secret for so many years? Thousands of people were involved in the Manhattan Project. I love reading people's comments where they're like, if aliens are real, I really doubt they're real because there's no way they'd be able to hide it. Oh, there's no way that they could hide that kind of stuff anymore. There's just too much information. There's too many cameras and reports and too many people. Look, if you've got if you've worked hard to build up a retirement, and if you become a whistleblower and you talk about something that happened that you're not supposed to, that retirement, you're not going to get it. You know, that money that you're expecting when you turn 65 or 67 or whenever you retire, well, whenever, you're probably not going to get it. That's a pretty good way to keep people from talking most of the time. Now, there might be every once in a while, somebody's like, I don't care. I need my conscience clean. I don't care. I want that money. I'm just going to go out and be a whistleblower. No, I mean, you can neutralize most information with disinformation and very targeted neuro-linguistic programming tactics. And I mean, there's so many methods to discredit somebody, even if they're legit. So we live in fascinating times, folks. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. And it's bringing back some memories and experiences that I've had that I wanted to share with you. And I've talked about some of these before. I've probably talked about all these before with you guys if you've listened to me long enough. But wow, how cool is that? And so then I was doing some more research and I found this. Let me share this with you. This is pretty cool. Oops. Now my mind is not for rent to any god or government. I always hope for the discontent. All right, here we go. Changes are permanent, but changes. All right, where are we at? No, not the Siberian UFO attack. Sorry, my voice is terrible. All right. Well, just when I sing, but I do have a radio voice and a radio face. Where's this at? Dang it. All right, stand by. I'm going to find this. 2014, 2004. All right. Nope, next one. Boom. Here we go. Will you just look at it? This, what you see right here, is the Central Intelligence Agency and Overhead Reconnaissance. The U-2 and Oxcart programs from 1954 to 1974. You're like, okay, Rex, yeah, so what? It's kind of cool, right? Kind of cool. Well, and it is declassified now, so I can show it to you. But this is what caught my interest. Down here. Page 72. U-2s, UFOs, and Operation Blue Book. So let's scroll on down to page 72 now. Dad says, yes, Rex, a great face for radio. See? I told you. Hey, everybody, this is Rex Bear, ALP, NLP, Project Neurolinguistic Programming. How are you today? Oh, look at that. Area 51. Oh, Area 51. Interesting how Area 51 is in this report. And so many people think that aliens are hanging out at Area 51. They think they're seeing aliens flying over Area 51. Probably not. Probably not. But let's get to page 72 here. You're going to like this. It's going to start to make sense when you look at this. You're like, oh, yeah. Now I get it. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. U-2s, UFOs, and Operation Blue Book. So, about that Operation Blue Book. Folks, we can't keep having people talk about these UFOs without having an official body to send the information to. High altitude testing on the U-2 soon led to an unexpected side effect. A tremendous increase in reports of unidentified flying objects. In the mid-1950s, most commercial airliners flew at altitudes between 10,000 and 20,000 feet, and military aircraft like the B-47s and B-57s operated at altitudes below 40,000 feet. Consequently, once U-2 started flying at altitudes above 60,000 feet, air traffic controllers began receiving increasing numbers of UFO reports. Such reports were most prevalent in the early evening hours from pilots of airliners flying from east to west. When the sun dropped below the horizon of an airliner flying at 20,000 feet, the plane was in darkness. But if a U-2 was airborne in the vicinity of the airliner at the same time, its horizon from an altitude of 60,000 feet was considerably more distant, and being so high in the sky, its silver wings would catch and reflect the rays of the sun and appear to the airliner pilot 40,000 feet below to be fiery objects. Even during daylight hours, the silver bodies of the high-flying U-2s could catch the sun and cause reflection or glints that could be seen at lower altitudes and even at the ground. Excuse me. At this time, no one believed manned flight was possible above 60,000 feet, so no one expected to see an object so high in the sky. Not only did the airline pilots report their sightings to air traffic controllers, but they and ground-based observers also wrote letters to the Air Force unit at Wright Air Development Command in Daytona, or Dayton. That's another place people say aliens are at, is at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Well, anyway, so they would report there, investigating such phenomena. This, in turn, led to the Air Force's Operation Blue Book. Oh, hello! It wasn't aliens. It was because they had to keep the U-2 plane under wraps. They had to keep it top secret. So what do? Yeah, you're right. It's probably aliens, so we'll take a look at it. Just send it in to Project Blue Book. And then Project Blue Book gets it, and they're like, well, it's probably not aliens, but thank you for sending it in. We don't know what it is. It's probably just space gas from Uranus. Yes, it's the Uranus space gas combined with swamp gas. That's what it usually is. Don't worry. It's not a U-2 spy plane. Oh, wait, what? What's that? So, this in turn led to the Air Force's Operation Blue Book. Based at Wright-Patterson, the operation collected all reports of UFO sightings. Air Force investigations then attempted to explain such sightings by linking them to natural phenomena. Blue Book investigators regularly called on the agency's project staff in Washington to check reported UFO sightings against U-2 flight logs. This enabled the investigators to eliminate the majority of the UFO reports. Although they could not reveal to the letter writers the true cause of the UFO sightings, U-2 and later Oxcart flights accounted for more than one half of all UFO reports during the late 1950s and most of the 60s. There you go, folks. Because they love you so much. They just want to keep you safe. It's just for, like, dude, it's a freaking alien. No, it's a U-2. Oh, wait, no, it's an alien. Yeah, oh, it's swamp gas. Yep. There you go. So now you might understand a little bit more how this thing works. And you know what? Am I convinced of the report where a flying saucer gets shot down, 5 aliens come out, they turn into a sphere, then they blow up all the military personnel, except for 2? Am I convinced that's a true story? No, but it's pretty freaking cool. And I wouldn't be surprised. But it could also be a big disinformation campaign that the Soviets sent because they knew that the CIA was going to get access to it. Could have been some top secret project that they were working on that literally turned 23 of their soldiers into limestone. And instead of the blame being put on them, it's on the aliens. The aliens did it. It wasn't our fault. We don't know how a missile was launched to hit that flying saucer. It was an accident. But they were pissed when they landed. And then what about the reports there's been so many flying saucer reports in New Mexico. Like Roswell is one of many. I've been to an alleged UFO crash site in New Mexico where they now have a mountain bike trail. And allegedly, and you can read about there's books out about this. I mean, there's a lot of information out about this. I did the interview with the people that wrote a book on it back like 10 years ago. I wonder if I could still find that interview. It was probably, like 10 years ago. Well, anyway, there were these flying saucers that were reported by not only the locals, but also the highway patrol. This highway patrolman sees this flying saucer that's acting erratic. It's acting all weird. And then it crash lands. And so he goes to check it out. And these people go to check out this crashed UFO. And the door opens. And there's these charred, 3-foot tall beings that have metallic suits on, but they all look like they got charred inside of this flying saucer. And let's not forget Billy Meyer, the Billy Meyer UFO scandal. So many people believed in that guy. It was like a cult, and it still is. Many people think that his UFOs that were, they look like hubcaps to me. But anyway, did you see the video of one of his alleged UFOs that he captured? And it's going back like this. It's like this. It's going, woo, 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 woo. It was like on a freaking string. Oops, you should have left that one out, buddy. Yeah, I mean, so there's so much nonsense in the field of UFOs and space aliens. There's so much BS, disinformation. I've interviewed so many people that have made these claims. And then when I actually started asking them questions, they just basically fell apart. And then they would say stuff like I remember one person I interviewed 8 years ago, and I didn't even upload this. It was like a 4 freaking hour interview. And I just got to the point where I can't even take this anymore. I can't listen to your BS anymore. This person should be called Pat, literally, because I don't know. Anyway, so this person is making these claims that they used to work at like JPL and NASA and all these defense contractors, and they had access to they could go in and pull all this information out. And then they showed me this one photograph of what was supposed to be the inside of the sun, but the inside of the sun is really like this electronic device. And I'm just like, oh, shut the up. And then when I asked for, I'm like, okay, I can't take it anymore. I said, show us some proof that you used to work for NASA or JPL or any of that. And do you know what Pat said? Do you know what this person said? It's just obvious. I was like, yeah, it's just obvious. You're full of bye-bye, gotta go. So look, there's some very genuine experiencers and experiences out there. I mean, I've shared with you my own experience that I had when I was a toddler. I'm in my crib and I'm looking at these things, looking at me, and I'm like, what are you? And it was really weird. And then later in life, I thought they were like life-size Star Wars figures. So I asked my folks, did we have life-size Star Wars figures growing up? And they're like, what are you talking about, Rex? I'm like, well, there was this one time when I was in my crib and I remember these things looking at me that weren't human. But you know what? I used to get like fevers back in the day. So it could have been hallucinations from a fever. It could have been, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was really cool. But they didn't take me on a ship. They were just staring at me and I was just staring at them, and it was really cool. And I still get goosebumps when I think about it. So whatever it was, it's had a very long impact on my life. I mean, it's had a permanent effect on my psyche, whatever it was that I saw. And if you've seen Return of the Jedi, there's the scene where there's those like insectoids playing instruments in that Jabba the Hutt scene. That's what my mind connected it to growing up as a child. Because I watched Star Wars in my mother's womb the day before I was born. I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater. I think I saw Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater, but I've seen that many, many times. So that's where my mind went when I was I was remembering these things that I had seen as a child or as a toddler. I wasn't even 2 years old yet because we moved out of that house by the time I was 2. We moved into another house. I explained the room to my folks exactly how it is. So clearly I can remember something. But what was it? I don't know. Were they space aliens? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. They weren't human. It was really cool. But I have talked to other people that have had similar experiences. My one friend, Dave, very, very cool guy. He says he remembers seeing something that reminded him of like Timothy the Tooth when he was growing up. And he's probably 15 years old, 10, 15 years older than me, my friend Dave. And so he saw something that was very, very interesting, very similar to what I saw. My friend Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, you know how skeptical he is towards aliens and extraterrestrials. He's way more skeptical than I am. Well, he even has described seeing what he calls the cockroach man or cockroach people that would just stare at him in a doorway. And if you look at an ant, like the face of an ant, you look at the face of a cockroach, you look at the face of Timothy the Tooth or whatever that cartoon character was, they all have very similar characteristics. And I think we all saw the same entities, whatever they are. This is just I don't know. So if you've had a similar experience, I would love to read about it in the comments section. I'd be very interested to read about it. And I want to thank you very much for watching the shows. Also, I want to let you know that on Patreon, we've got a ton of exclusive content. So jump on over to our Patreon page, become a Patreon. And yeah, we got some really cool stuff on Patreon. And I'm going to be uploading a bunch of older interviews that I've done that aren't anywhere right now, like Gerald Clark. I did an amazing I've done so many interviews with Gerald Clark. I really miss you, Gerald. I hope you're doing good, brother. I love you, man. Also, I was thinking about an interview I did with, like he was number 4 in Paul Hellyer. Paul Hellyer. I love this guy. He was in his mid-90s when he passed. We actually built a friendship. Paul Hellyer, I miss you, brother. I hope you're doing good, man. I've been thinking a lot about him lately. We've done some great interviews. I did some great interviews with Paul and Jacques Vallée and just got some amazing interviews. So jump on over our Patreon page and you'll get access to all those. You can download them. They're ad-free. Most of them are ad-free. So, unedited, uncensored. And I hope to see you for the webinar that I've got coming up on Zoom here. So if you want to join us for the webinar, just go ahead and send me an email at leakproject@gmail.com. Everybody that's been to the webinar just loves it. So I think you'll have a lot of fun as well, and totally free. We're gonna share some ideas, give you some opportunities, and have a beautiful day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Be excellent to each other, and be the change you want to see. America, oh yeah!
This is where the aliens land.